Society of Providence Sunday service. We'll start with the opening prayer. You can all join in. We offer our salutations to the all-loving being who endows all beings with consciousness. We meditate on the Lord, who is the origin of the universe. Lord, thou abidest in all. Thou art all. Thou assumest all forms. Thou art the origin and goal of all. Thou art the self of all. Thou art existence, knowledge, and bliss. Salutations unto thee. May the world be peaceful. May the wicked become gentle. May all creatures think of mutual welfare. May their minds be occupied with what is spiritual and abiding. May our hearts be immersed in selfless love for the Lord. Peace, peace, peace be unto all. So today we have a guest speaker, Sukalyan Sengupta is a longtime devotee of and speaker at the Vedanta Center of Providence. He is a professor of environmental engineering and the director of the Center for Indic Studies at the University of Massachusetts, Dartmouth. His association with the Ramakrishna movement started in the 1970s at the New Delhi branch of the Ramakrishna Mission. He is the co-editor of the book, The Cyclonic Swami, Vivekananda in the West. His articles on Swami Vivekananda, Sister Nivedita, and Vedanta have appeared in various print and online publications. He has been an invited speaker on Vedanta-related topics at various conferences and seminars. Today he will be speaking on the spiritual significance of Sraddha.
Om Bhadram Karnebi Shrunuyaam Deva Bhadram Pashye Makshabhirya Jatraha Sthirairangai Stuštuvagam Sastanubhihi Vyashema Deva Hitang Yadayuhu Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you, Charlie. And I would also like to thank Swami Yogatmanandaji Maharaj for giving us this opportunity to discuss a topic which is a very important aspect of any spiritual aspirant. Before we get into the details, I'll just mention one quick thing that typically you would find that Sraddha, the Sanskrit word, is translated as faith. And we will start with that definition, but we will see that it may not correspond one-to-one exact. It's not exactly what we imply by faith. But let's start with the word faith. As you know, faith is a very powerful emotion, and we have this proverb, faith moves mountains, which tells us how strong it can be. And let me just begin with the story of faith. This is the story of a ship which was in mid-sea, and due to a variety of conditions, a young boy who was aboard the ship, he fell off board. Now, nobody really realized. The ship kept on sailing until about a few hours later, when they do that roll call, they found out that this boy was missing. So they had to inform the captain, of course. And when they told this to the captain then said, all right, now let's go back to where we think the boy fell off. And the crew tried to desist, saying, well, you see, we are already delayed. We don't exactly know where the boy fell, and even if we retrace, chances are very minimal that the boy will still be alive. But the captain said, nothing doing, we have to go back. So they went back, and fortuitously, when they came to an area where they thought the boy had fallen off board, they saw the boy clinging to some kind of just barely alive. So they, of course, they brought him on board. He was suffering from hypothermia. He was unconscious, but alive. So they tended on him. The captain sat at his bedside until the boy regained consciousness. And when he did so, the captain just asked, how are you? And after that, the captain was very curious. And he said, by what power did you survive for so long under these such hostile conditions at mid-sea? And the boy said, by the power of you. I had no doubt that you, the captain, would not forsake me. So this is faith in the captain, which basically kept this boy alive. So just to reinforce this concept that Sraddha or faith can be a very powerful tool. So now, again, as I said, little bit of a difficulty is that there is no equivalent word in English. When we say faith, it is fine in certain cases, but not in all cases. By faith, what we typically mean, faith, of course, has so many multiple meanings in the dictionary, if you see. When we say faith in this context, we are basically meaning that we believe something which we don't really have proof of. And in that sense, it's closest to Shraddha. But if you look at the etymology of Shraddha, Shraddha in Sanskrit comes from two root words, Shat, which is the same root word for Satya, Sat, that means truth, and Dha, which means to hold. So it is basically holding to the truth. And the person who does so, the person who has Shraddha, is called Shraddhavan. Okay? So we will try to use this word Shraddha as much as possible. But as I said, there is a pretty strong overlap in the sense that when you start on when you embark on some path, serious undertaking, then of course you have to begin with faith or Shraddha. When you are a student, for example, in school, you go to let's say you take a chemistry course, you have to have faith in the chemistry textbook, in the chemistry teacher's words. If you don't have that, then you will not get anywhere. You will not make any progress. But does that mean that you just blindly accept whatever is said? The answer is it depends on your level of maturity. So when you are in, let's say, middle school, then you have to accept. But once you become more mature, you become more knowledgeable, then you can verify yourself. Excuse me. But there are two aspects which we need to be very careful about. One thing is, should we believe anything in what we hear or read or see? And this is an issue which has become more of a challenge now in education, for example. And I'm talking now of not middle school or high school, but college education. We increasingly are coming across situations where you ask a student to kind of research on a particular topic and submit a term paper, and the student submits stuff which is plainly wrong. And when you point this out to the student said, but I got it from the internet. So the student basically believed everything that he or she read and just regurgitated it. So that, of course, is not advisable. And the opposite to that is also becoming a problem in that, as I said, at the beginning, if you cannot even believe in anything, you kind of are stuck. So if when I came to this center today, I believed that my car would be fine for this ride. When I take public transportation, I have faith in that infrastructure, the public service infrastructure will get me to the place I have to go, whether by bus or by train or whatever. So I have to start with that faith. And for those who doubt everything, as I said, you can't really make much progress. And in this case, what typically happens is that people, they have faith in science. They say, for example, I have faith in science. I don't have faith in religion or spirituality or whatever. I am a scientist. I cannot accept what is just said in terms of a statement in a scripture, for example. And there again, we have to kind of board a little bit in the sense that when you say you have faith in science, what exactly are you trying to imply? Because when, as I said, let's go back to the case of chemistry. When I read a chemistry book, I find what is known as the atomic structure, and there's the nucleus with the protons, neutrons, there are these electrons in a cloud which are kind of circling around. That's what we read. Have any of us seen it? Not really. Only very few who are at the very high end of research in, let's say, particle chemistry, they may have seen some images. But we accept that, and yet in this case, we say, well, I cannot accept scripture. Okay, so we need to work a little bit more on these people. And I am constantly reminded of Swami Chetananandaji Maharaj of our St. Louis Center. He once recounted the story that a couple who were not very frequent visitors but did come to the center a few times, and the husband used to say, oh, I don't believe this, I don't trust in this. Every time you say something, he would say, I don't believe. So Chetananandaji Maharaj said, so you see, your wife is here. I mean, do you trust that your wife will not murder you tonight when you sleep? So you have to start somewhere, right? And again, when we come to this doubting nature, then should we ask questions? Absolutely. Questions are encouraged, not only in science, also in Vedanta, for example. There is this very famous Bhagavad Gita shlok, Tatvidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya. So you approach a spiritual master and you ask all kinds of questions that are in your mind about spiritual path. So it's not that questions are disallowed or not encouraged. But the other side of it is just questioning for the sake of questioning. I mean, again, in education, we do have this situation where you are, let's say, lecturing to a class of whatever, 40, 50, 60 people, and one student is constantly just asking irrelevant, completely off the point, irreverent questions, and that spoils the whole atmosphere, doesn't really get you anywhere. So questioning just for the sake of questioning is also not a very good idea. And when we come to questions, I think the best example that we have is, personally speaking, the best example that I can cite is the what is called as the Yajnavalkya-Gargi dialogue in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. So Gargi asks some very profound questions, and this is of course about the ultimate nature of Brahman, and Yajnavalkya patiently, with details, he's answering these questions. But at the end he says, oh Gargi, no more questions or your head will fall off. By that what he means is not that literally the head will fall off, but questions do have a role, but they do have a limit as well. And after a certain point, questioning doesn't really help you, because language, I mean, when you say question, you mean you are using the tool of language to get the answer, and language is not sufficient, okay? So we have to keep that in mind. All right. So the question then is, well, as I said, in science we need to have trust, we verify. How about in Vedanta? So I will just kind of contrast how we verify truth, okay? So as you can see, there are a number of ways in what is technically in Vedanta is called a pramana. And in science, you can say it's a method of proof, method of getting proof, okay? So there are multiple ways in which we have these pramanas. The first one, of course, would be pratyaksha pramana, direct perception through the senses. And this is what science is all about, either through our physical senses or extension of them. I mean, all these sophisticated technological innovations are basically a means to augment our range of sensory inputs, okay? So it's perfectly acceptable in science, perhaps the only way science accepts something as a truth. And in Vedanta also, pratyaksha pramana is a very valid means of pramana. Then we come to shabda pramana, the knowledge that you get from scriptures. And of course, science would be a big no. They cannot accept anything just at face value. But in Vedanta, shabda pramana is a very important pramana, and we will see a little later that perhaps it's one of the 2 or 3 most important pramanas. And we will also look at it why we say so. Then comes rationality. Rationality, of course, is the foundation of science. I mean, if you look at the history of science, enlightenment was the beginning of what we call today the scientific mode of inquiry. So rationality, perfectly legitimate means of getting knowledge in science. And same in Vedanta as well. Yukti is very widely used, again, up to a certain limit. Then indirect perception, and again, indirect perception, which we call anumana, that is held as a valid means of knowledge by both science. Science also, I mean, not every time can we verify something by direct sensory inputs. We do make inferences, and that's perfectly fine. So in Vedanta. And then we come to perhaps the most sticking point, experience. Does science accept experience as a way of verifying truth? And the answer is kind of difficult. It's no, with some hint in certain cases. So for example, a case could be that if your experience is verifiable by some, let's say, brain mapping. You say you are experiencing something, and they map your brain, and they find, yeah, there are some wave patterns that correspond to what science believes correspond to that feeling of emotion, then they will accept. But if you just say, this is what I'm experiencing, science will not accept it. But Vedanta does accept that also as a valid means of knowledge. And this is where perhaps the most critical distinction comes in, that in science you start with some, you accept some truths and then you verify them, and only then are you certain. Now, the domain of science is such that these truths are verifiable. That's what science considers its domain. But in spirituality, this domain is such that you can say that it is not verifiable by, let's say, pratyaksha pramana or even sometimes anumana pramana. So there what you do, yukti, yes, yukti is okay at the beginning, but yukti, rationality, also has its limits. So then what do you do? Okay, so just to give you 2 quotes on rationality by Swami Vivekananda. As you can see, when we say rationality, it is confining ourselves to the senses. So this theory of cause and effect it is bound by what we take in as input through our senses, okay? So you cannot reason beyond the senses. We have to keep that in mind. And secondly, rationality can never reach the ultimate truth that we are trying to reach to. That only comes from experience. So you see, the main problem or the main distinction is that we are talking of a reality that is not possible to verify through physical means or direct perception or indirect perception. And so, although we use these methods of obtaining knowledge, we need to keep that in mind. So, coming back to Sraddha, what is the role of Sraddha in all of this? So, we have to start with some postulates. And the first one is, of course, that there is a supreme transcendent reality. That reality can be realized by any person, you, me, anybody else. And as I just said, we have to accept the fact that this reality is not verifiable or graspable by direct or indirect perception. And reason also has certain limits. Beyond that, reason also will not be able to help you. So what do you do? So then you have to base this method of inquiry on Shabda Pramana, what is there in the scriptures, and the grace of a guru, absolutely necessary. And that these two, the Shabda Pramana and the grace of the guru, can get you to that experience of that ultimate reality. And so for these, for accepting Shabda Pramana scriptures and for Guru's grace, Sraddha is what we call as a sine qua non. You have to have it. Without it, there is no other way. Okay. So, as it's also given in the scriptures, for example, Kathopanishad says, as you can see, not by speech, not by mind. How can it be known to anyone apart from one who speaks of it as existing? Okay. So, now, as I said, we need to spend a little bit of time on the definition of Sraddha. Until now, we have said, well, it has some overlap with faith, and that's perfectly fine. But if you want to go to a technical definition, we have to go to Shankaracharya. In various places, he has given definitions which maybe a little bit are different, but in gist they are almost the same. So in Aparokshanubhuti, you get this shloka number 8, that it is Nigam Acharya Vakyeshu Bhakti Shraddha iti Vishruta. So it is the implicit faith in the words of the scriptures and that of the teacher. So both scripture and teacher play a very important role. And perhaps the most wonderful definition of Shraddha is again given by Shankaracharya in the Viveka Churamani. And there he says, Shastrasya Guru Vakyasya Satya Buddhi Avadharanam Sa Shraddha Kathita Sadbhi Yaya Vastu Upalabhyate. That means the scriptures, complete faith in the scriptures and in the instructions of the Guru, and that will then lead you to Vastu, which is the ultimate reality. And there is another place in the commentary on the Chandogya Upanishad, Shankaracharya says, Mantavya Vishaye Adaraha Astikya Buddhi Shraddha. So Shraddha is the idea that what you are discussing, and of course this relates to the earlier discussion in the Upanishad, what you are discussing, that really exists. So it's this existence of this reality which we call as Astikya. Astik, Nastik, these are the antonyms. So that is what is Shraddha. Okay. Now, again, this role played by the scriptures and the guru, as I said, is very, very critical. And a wonderful passage at the end of the Shvetashvatara Upanishad, at the very end, it says, Yasya deve para bhakti yatha deve tatha gurau. So you have to have this Shraddha as much in the divine as much in the guru, okay? Because the guru is the one that is leading you to the divine, okay? So that is what is enjoined by our scriptures. And as you know, when we have an important scripture at the very end in these so-called Mahavakyas, the phrase is repeated for highlighting its importance. So that's why where it says prakashante mahatmanah, prakashante mahatmanah iti. Right. So then what role does Shraddha play in the lifestyle of an aspirant? So again, there are these qualities given. The adhikari, the one who has embarked on this spiritual path, that adhikari is then asked to follow what is known as sadhana chatushtaya, vivek, discernment, vairagya, dispassion, then shat sampatti, what typically translated as 6 treasures, and then mumukshutvam, the intense desire for liberation. So within these 6 treasures, we have shama, restraint of mind, dhamma, restraint of the senses, uparati, which is pulling back of the mind, titiksha, forbearance, shraddha, what we are discussing, and samadhanam, which is the single-pointed concentration. And I would argue that shraddha is the preeminent in these shat sampattis, because only if you have shraddha can you then make progress in these other treasures and the other sadhans as well. Now, if you look at the 2 most widely discussed paths in a spiritual quest, then typically are said as Shraddha, Jnana and Bhakti. And Shraddha is absolutely necessary for both these paths, okay? How so? Well, for Jnana Marga, Shraddha will lead to self-reflection, introspection, self-study, swadhyaya, and contemplation. It will encourage the seeker to question, as I said, question for the sake of understanding and making progress. And it will give you clarity, which will then lead you to that ultimate knowledge. If you choose the Bhakti Marg, in the Bhakti Marg, Shraddha will open your heart to love and surrender to the divine. This Bhakti, it will grow through trust, humility, and emotional connection. And the true devotion, it will transcend rituals. I mean, rituals are a good way to begin this path, but you should not be stuck with them. Okay. So, whenever we look at Shraddha, we do also look at the Bhagavad Gita. And the Bhagavad Gita has a number of passages. The most celebrated of them would be 439, which says, Shraddhavan, labhate jnanam tatparah sanyam indriyah jnanam labdhva param shanti achirena digacchati. So, the person who is endowed with Shraddha, he is the one who gets this ultimate knowledge by having restraint over the senses. And this knowledge then leads to supreme peace. Now, when we are talking of the Bhagavad Gita, if we go to the 17th chapter, there is a very lengthy kind of discussion. The discussion of Sraddha, that is, discussion. It starts with Arjuna. And Arjuna asks on behalf of all of us, as is always, this question that, O Krishna, those who, setting aside the ordinances of the scriptures, perform sacrifice with faith, with Shraddha, what is their condition? Sattva, Rajas or Tamas. So this 17th chapter, as you know, is based on the three gunas. So it's in that context. And Krishna then goes on to expand or expound on them. And we will not get to the entire passage, but only a few shlokas. That, well, again, this very important sub-phrase in the Bhagavad Gita, Yo yat shraddhaha sa eva sa. That means, as is a person's faith, so is that person. And then Krishna goes on to explain what is the difference between Shraddha of a tamasic versus that of a rajasic versus that of a sattvic. And we will not get too much into that discussion except to say that they all do have Shraddha. It's only in what are they looking for in terms of the ultimate goal. Okay. All right, so this is fine for technical discussion or quoting from the scriptures, but the way we typically learn is by looking at examples. And so let us spend some time on looking at some exemplars of Shraddha, okay? So starting from the Ramayana. In the Ramayana, of course, there is no doubt that Hanuman's Shraddha is unparalleled. And as you all know the story, well, Hanuman, just by taking the name of Rama, he jumps across this strait that separates India from Sri Lanka and reaches Lanka. So deep, unshakable, firm was his faith. So Hanuman is definitely an exemplar. Then we come to the Upanishads, and we will look at two young boys in the Upanishads who can serve as exemplars. The first one being Satyakam. As you know, Satyakam was the son of Jabala, and once he became preteen, let's say 12-year-old, it's not really mentioned the age, but anyway, once he is sincere about this spiritual quest, of course he needs a guru. So he goes to this guru Gautama and says, "Sir, will you teach me these spiritual truths?" And Gautama says, "Yeah, I can, but then I have to know a little bit about you. What is your gotra? What is your lineage? Who is your father?" Those kinds of questions. It's very typical that any guru would ask. And Satyakam doesn't know the answers, so he comes back to his mother, and Jabala says, "My son, I'm so sorry. I don't know who your father is because I had physical association with so many men. I can't answer that." But the mother says, "Well, you are my son. I am Jabala, so you are Satyakam Jabal. And just say this to the guru." And Satyakam goes back to the guru and says what his mother told him. And the guru is very pleased. And he says, Gautama is very pleased, and he says, "Well, this truth, however unpleasant it is, now that you have told this truth, I have no doubt that you are a Brahmana." By Brahmana, he doesn't really mean that of a particular caste. He just means that you are fit for getting these instructions. Okay, so I accept you as my disciple. But then, very strange. I mean, when you go to a guru, if your guru accepts you, what would you expect? You would expect the guru to now start giving you lessons from scriptures or whatever. This guru is a very different kind of a guru. What does he do? He says, you see, in the shed, I have some cows, very infirm and weak, and but there are a number of them, about 400 of them. Take them and come back when that number has increased to 1,000. So you can imagine, I mean, what kind of spiritual instructions is it? But anyway, I mean, the guru tells him, so he does this. He takes these 400 cows and raises them, lets them graze and all that. And then we read, while a bull kind of calls Satyakam, and the bull gives some spiritual instructions. Then fire gives some instructions. A swan gives spiritual instructions. And then a madgu bird, kind of like a kingfisher bird, that bird gives Satyakam spiritual instructions. So then he comes back to the guru. Now he has 1,000 cows. So what the point is here is that Satyakam's original guru would be his mother, because she is the one who instilled in him this boldness of facing the truth. So his mother, Gautama, and the guru need not be a person, as we just saw in this case. It could be animals, it could be birds. So that's Satyakam's story. But the point is that he had so much Sraddha that whoever gave spiritual instructions, he received them with utmost humility and respect. Okay, so that's Satyakam's story. Now let's get to the Kathopanishad. And in Kathopanishad, of course, we are talking of Nachiketa, another boy perhaps of the same age, again somehow related with cows. Cows, because cows were currency in those days, okay? So here what happens is, of course, we all know his father is doing a very powerful yajna, and in that yajna, the rule is that you will donate whatever you have. And Nachiketa watches, kind of, he's a little aghast that his father is giving away these cows. But what kind of cows? Very wonderful description. The cows that have drank their last drop of water, they have had their last blade of grass, they cannot bear calves anymore. So the most, you can say, rejected of the cows, that's the one. That's the one that he is donating. And the boy is, of course, very offended. And he knows that Vajashrava, his father, must be having soft corner for Nachiketa, his son. So his son must be very dear to the father. And so he goes to the father and says, "Father, whom do you donate me to?" And the father is kind of busy with all these, farcical, but still sacrifices nevertheless. So he has to attend to a number of things. And so he doesn't answer. The second time doesn't answer. Again, when Nachiketa asks for the third time, the father says, "I give you to death." And from there basically begins the Kathopanishad. But again, the point is Nachiketa's faith, Sraddha, in the father's words. And the father, of course, repents that, "Oh, I may have said in a fit of anger, I didn't mean it." But Nachiketa says, no. Now that you have said you have given me to death, I have to follow your words. And then, of course, the Upanishad kind of begins from there. But anyway, our point is just to use Nachiketa as an exemplar of Sraddha. Then we come back to Ramayana. Shabari, an illiterate, poor woman, but she serves her guru, Matanga, very religiously for a long time. And when the guru is about to die, Matanga says, "Shabari, you have served me so well. I give you a boon that Sri Rama will visit you." And now Shabari, of course, as I said, lives in the forest in a tiny, tiny hut, has no valuables whatsoever. So what can she do? But she is preparing. She prepares for Rama's arrival every day. How so? While in the forest there's nothing much except for some berries. So she plucks these berries. Now, to give berries to Rama, they cannot be sour, of course. So she has to verify that they are indeed sweet. So she just tastes each berry, tiny, tiny part of each berry, and only if it is sweet does she keep it aside for Rama. And of course, at day's end, when Rama doesn't come, then again, next day, same cycle is repeated for years and years until one day Rama finally comes. We all know that story. But the point here is basically to see how Shabari had so much faith in the words of the Guru that yes, Rama will come. We don't know when, I don't know when, but I have to be prepared. So again, exemplary Shraddha, that's all that is in our context as of today. Now, coming to more modern times, in the Ramakrishna order, we have so many examples. We'll just have the time for a few. Swami Adbhutananda, Latu Maharaj. Latu Maharaj, as you know, was illiterate, village boy from Bihar, who, when he met Sri Ramakrishna, he was actually a household servant. And when his master came to meet Sri Ramakrishna, brought along Latu with him, and that kind of sparked spiritual fervor in Latu, and Latu wanted to have Sri Ramakrishna as his guru. There were a few logistical problems, but once they were settled, Latu started to live with Sri Ramakrishna in Dakshineshwar. Now, one day, after the evening meal, Latu fell asleep. And Sri Ramakrishna then woke him up, and he just said, well, you see, Latu, you are wasting your time. I mean, evening and night, they are the best times for meditation. And you are just sleeping, wasting your time. And that was it. That one admonition from Sri Ramakrishna changed Latu Maharaj's life. He never ever slept in the night. Okay? So that much Shraddha he had in Sri Ramakrishna's words. Now, moving further along, I mean in time, Swami Kalyanananda. Swami Kalyanananda was a disciple of Swami Vivekananda. And we read that one day, this is Belur Math. In those days, there were no refrigerators. In fact, when you read Belur Math's history, when Belur Math was founded, there was no electricity either. So, and for those of you who have been to that part of the world, in summer it can become very unbearable. So, peak of summer, Swami Vivekananda tells Kalyanananda, please go and get some ice. And so one has to go to the Belur market, few kilometers away. And we read that Swami Kalyanananda carried 20 kilograms of ice, about 50 pounds of ice on his shoulders for 10 kilometers, let's say, in the peak of summer, just because Swami Vivekananda asked him, no questions. Okay. And that pales in comparison to the Shraddha that he had when Swami Vivekananda told him, you see, when we go to these pilgrimage sites in India, you know, the Char Dham, there are many, many pilgrimage sites in India where people go and monks also go, sadhus also go. So Swami Vivekananda said, you see, Kalyan, in these places, sadhus reside pretty much throughout the year, but they have no access to any medical care or anything like that. So can you do something for them? And that alone was enough. Swami Kalyanananda went to Kankhal, which is kind of close to Hardwar, one of the very important religious sites of North India. And he founded You can call the first hospital there. Today, that's a big hospital. I mean, for those of you who were here when Peter Travisano, that is, he visited, he showed you pictures. So it's a big hospital, but the beginnings, as modest as they were because of Swami Kalyanananda's Sraddha in Vivekananda's words. Okay. Moving along, a contemporary and a colleague of Swami Kalyanananda, Swami Nishchayananda. Again, they both were the first sadhus to set up that Kankhal medical facility, medical dispensary and all that. But the Sraddha story that I find most inspiring is during his time in Belur Mutt. So what happens is, and Nishchayananda is also a disciple of Swami Vivekananda. So in Belur Mutt, even today, if you go to Belur Mutt, there's a big cow shed. There are many, many cows that the milk of whom is used for Belur Mutt. And it was the case in Vivekananda's time as well. Though not that many heads of cattle, of course. But anyway, so Vivekananda asks Nishchayananda to go to Calcutta. As you know, there is Ganges on the Belur Mutt is on one side of the Ganges, Calcutta is on the other side. So if you have to go to Calcutta, you have to cross the Ganges. So he says, go to Calcutta and buy a cow and then bring the cow to Belur Mutt. Okay. So, and the only way possible in those days was through a boat. And Swami Vivekananda then instructs Nishchayananda, you see, you should hold the cow firmly by the leash, not let go of the leash. Okay. So Nishchayananda goes to Calcutta, he buys a cow, brings him to the ghat where the cow and Nishchayananda have to get into a boat. Now, as you can imagine, a cow is a cow. Once the boat starts to move, shake a bit, the cow gets very nervous, the cow gets very restless, and after a few more minutes, the cow is so nervous that the cow jumps into the water. Now, Nishchayananda is, of course, holding the rein. What can he do? He also has to jump into the water. And the cow is going here, there, everywhere in the water. And Nishchayananda, one hand firmly clenched the reins, and in the other hand is swimming, haplessly swimming. So you can just envision the situation. Anyway, somehow they manage to come ashore. Then they get into another boat, and this time it's incident-free. They reach Belur Mutt. So when Nishchayananda recounts this story to his brother disciples, they all say, I mean, why did you have to do like this? So they then take him to Swami Vivekananda, and they recount the story. You see, Maharaj, he jumped into the water, he swam with one hand, and Vivekananda says, well, why did you have to do all this? You could have let go the cow. And he says, Swamiji, how could I do that? You told me to hold the reins. So this is what Sraddha is all about. You told me, so I cannot let go of the cow, no matter what happens to me. So that's what Sraddha is. And 548. Maybe one more. This is, you can say, a very minor kind of incident, but very instructive. This one relates to Swami Vireshwarananda, Prabhu Maharaj, as he was more popularly known, the 10th president of the Ramakrishna order. So this is when he was a novice, and this is again at Belur Mutt. Now, in Belur Mutt, I mean, of course, it's on the Ganges. What happens is that the Ganges, it's in the Gangetic Delta part, so very, very close to the ocean, the Bay of Bengal. And so what happens is there is a tidal cycle. When there is high tide, salt water flows into the Ganges. And then when there is low tide, fresh water flows towards the Bay of Bengal. So the salinity in the water is a function of the tidal cycle. So one day, Prabhu Maharaj, and even today, monks go to take a bath in the Ganges. So Prabhu Maharaj went to the Ganges, he took a bath, and he was coming back. And on the way, he saw Swami Brahmananda, his guru. And Swami Brahmananda asked, can you go and find out if the water is saline or not? And Prabhu Maharaj said, oh Maharaj, I'm just coming from the water. It's fine. It's not very salty. And Brahmananda says, what did I ask you? I said, go and find out. And this, you can say it's a semantic difference, but for Prabhu Maharaj, it was so important that he never felt tired of recounting this. That Swami Brahmananda taught me this, that when a guru says something, you just follow, okay? So that is what Shraddha is all about. All right. So, now for us, what are the benefits of Shraddha? Well, it is what in engineering we call a positive feedback loop, in the sense that when you lead a life with Shraddha in Guru's words, in scriptures, that then translates into a moral ethical life. And that moral ethical life then helps you to get more, have more Shraddha. So that is perhaps one of the differences with science. I mean, in a scientific quest, once you get to the truth, it doesn't really affect your lifestyle. You know the truth, you publish papers, you get awards, all that is fine. But in this case, if you have Shraddha, it, as I said, it keeps on going in this positive loop. And it helps both having more Shraddha and leading a more purposeful, meaningful life. Okay, so continuing with the benefits of Shraddha, it transforms life, and we have numerous examples of people with even an iota of the Shraddha that I talked about with these exemplars, and they themselves say that our lives were transformed based on the Guru's instructions. So the approach to life is transformed. You have purity of mind, because you know what is the ultimate reality. So once you know the ultimate reality, all these other things become trifle. And so they make the mind pure. If your mind is pure, your thoughts become clearer, clarity of thought. And perhaps what is most important in a spiritual aspirant's life is this perfect alignment between thought, speech, and action. Our biggest problem is that we think something, we say something completely opposite to it, and then we act again, which is opposite to what we say. And once we bring Shraddha in our spiritual life, that then removes these misalignments. And perhaps what gurus also tell, and what I have myself heard from people whom I respect a lot, they are ordinary people like you and me, but have been practicing spiritual austerities for a long time. They say that this fear of death, as you know, is so strong. And what Shraddha does is that it helps you overcome this. It doesn't go away totally, but the more you can overcome this fear, because this fear, it kind of it is so entrenched, so powerful that it affects many things that we do. And though we may say all kinds of things like, yeah, whatever happens, we still, this feeling, we cannot let go of it. It impacts us very severely. And so once we have more and more Shraddha, this fear, it lessens. I don't know whether it will have any way go away completely. That's not what people tell me, but at least if you can lessen it significantly, you're so much happier and have a purpose and peaceful life. So with that, I pray to Sri Ramakrishna, Sraddha Devi, and Swami Vivekananda that may our lives have more Shraddha, so that we can make progress in our spiritual path. Thank you. Sure, sure. Questions? Yes, Charlie.
I have two questions. You said you can't verify by direct perception, but isn't that how people experience God, by direct perception?
Well, when we say direct perception, we mean through our senses, eyes, ears, hearing, touch, smell, and that you cannot realize. So it is perception, but extrasensory perception.
And the other thing is, why didn't Nachiketa have faith in his father when he said he didn't mean it? It would have ruined the story, but, why couldn't he have faith in that?
Because that was not sincere. Because he saw his father, not just the statement of his father, he saw what his father was doing. And he was a very, very smart boy. He must, and of course, the scripture doesn't tell us of stories before this yajna. But I'm sure he was smart enough to realize that his father was not very sincere. Vishwanath ji.
Thank you. So, before a human being starts having that great Sraddha, that firm, stable, rooted Sraddha, does he not start with opinions and beliefs?
Yes, yes. Opinions is kind of a little tricky word because what we say is that you are entitled, I mean, there's a very famous statement that you are entitled to your opinions, but not to your facts. I mean, facts are universal. So yes, you start wherever you are, and of course, opinions, but that is perhaps one of the main roles of the guru is to mold your opinions so that they can become then aligned. And beliefs as well, absolutely, yes.
And once you have that Shraddha, then no opinion, no belief system is ever going to change that, right? So no matter how many times people argue with you on that particular point, you are already so stable, you can withstand all arguments and controversies.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
And Vishwanath ji, I'm reminded of Swami Turiyananda's case. He once told that kind of worldly matters, whatever people's opinions, you can go with the flow. I mean, let's say political, I have and you have a different political ideology. If you have expressed your political feelings, I should, even if I have opposite to that, I should not really have too much of an argument or things like that. But as you said, when you have Shraddha in the spiritual goal that you have, that as unshakable as you can make it. It may be tested. I mean, people have recounted how severe mishap or adversity kind of tests how grounded you are. But most of them will tell you that it is Shraddha that kind of made them, bear that adversity and move on. So yes, it is unshakable, but it's also sometimes tested, yeah.
And Sri Ramakrishna again and again stresses on Shraddha and Bhakti. If you have Shraddha and Bhakti, nothing can stop you. You are going to get God realization.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, it was nice lecture. I have some question about, basically I'm trying to understand what Shraddha exactly means. For example, I'm seeing that sun rises from the east and setting on the west, and my senses is telling that, okay, I'm seeing that the light source is coming above my head and going down, so this fellow probably rotating around me. So basically sun rotates around the earth. That's what my conclusion comes logically. But somehow I got firmly convinced now that, okay, that is not the case. So is this the Shraddha you were saying? Because I never seen actually that uh, Earth is rotating around the sun. I have not seen my eyes like that. So is it Shraddha that I'm firmly convinced that, okay, Earth is rotating around sun?
Well, I mean, in the Middle Ages, people did have that belief because that was what they observed. But then these very, very famous astronomers, they pointed out the fallacies of that. And so today, the heliocentric system that we have, it is held as kind of inviolable because it supports all these other observations. The observation that you made that, well, the sun kind of goes around me, that is just one aspect of the solar system. It is in kind of flagrant violation with many other theories of, cosmology. So if you say that that is your Shraddha, then when you are faced with facts that, and this is again what Vishwanath ji was also alluding to, once you face facts that run contrary to what your worldview was, you have to change, you should change because otherwise you will
I'm
be.
fully convinced that, okay, that is not the case. So this, my conviction, do you think it is Shraddha? Means, I now totally understand that, okay, it is not the case that sun rotates around Earth. So this, my conviction, this is, do you think it is Shraddha, though my senses is kind of giving a contradictory inputs?
Well, I will not say whether it is Shraddha or not. It is definitely not scientific basis. Your opinion or your worldview does not stand the scrutiny of science. It is unscientific. There's a big challenge now in terms of scientific literacy. So many people have very different ideas about. So what you are saying, if I understand you, you can keep holding to your beliefs. The only problem is it will not let you make any progress. Now, as far as you are saying, well, it rises in the east, at midday it's above me, it sets in the west, that much you can still go with your view.
That's what I'm saying. No, I am fully convinced. So though I didn't see it, now I fully convinced that Earth is rotating around sun, but I never seen it. So this, my conviction right now, do you call it as a Shraddha or it is something else?
Yes. I mean, again, we are talking of Shraddha in kind of a specific context, and our context is the words of the scriptures and the words of the Guru, and self-confidence. So, but you can call it Shraddha, yes. I mean, Shraddha also has, you can say, different levels. So at the mundane, secular level, yes, there are certain truths that you can call Shraddha.
Yes. So one comment from Swami Yogatmanji. Holy Mother was Guru of revered Vireshwaranji, not Brahmananda, just a minor detail.
Yes, Maharaj, I stand corrected. I misspoke. And I'm sure you all have read of that wonderful passage where Vireshwarananda ji, along with 3 others, goes to Joy Rambati to get initiation from Holy Mother. Yes.
And the question from Swamiji only, Swami Yogatmanji. A question. You explained very well the importance Shraddha in path of knowledge and bhakti. What about Karma Yoga and Raj Yoga?
Yes, yes. Karma Yoga also, what Shraddha, I mean, the secret to Karma Yoga is, of course, Nishkama Karma. That means you do all the work but without any attachment. And Shraddha definitely helps in that process, that you can do more work because you are not attached to the fruits of the work. So yes, yes, absolutely. Raja Yoga, yes, I mean, when you start with meditation, then of course you have to have Shraddha in, let's say, Patanjali's Yoga Sutras that explain that when you follow this path, samadhi will be the result. So you have to have absolute Shraddha in that. We are not there yet, but that is definitely the goal of Raja Yoga. So yes, absolutely, in all forms of yoga, bhakti, jnana, karma, and Raja Yoga.
And one more from Swamiji for Rupak. No, dear Rupak, what you were asking was not Shraddha, but a rationally understood truth.
Okay.
Thank you, Sukalyan. Programs coming up. Next Sunday, we're going to have a talk on God without qualities and with qualities, followed by a Sarod tablet concert. The morning and evening meditations will take place as usual. You enter by the back for those, except when there's a class or a service. And Tuesdays, we'll have the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna class. Swami Yogatmanandaji will be back on Tuesday. And on Fridays, we have stories from Srimad Bhagavatam. And Karma Yoga on Saturdays from 8 to 10:30, cleaning and other maintenance works. And a guided meditation 11 a.m. to noon. So we will end with the closing prayer, and after that we have Arati in the shrine. Everybody here knows you take your shoes off to go in the shrine. And after that we'll have soup supper downstairs. And so we'll close with the closing prayer. We can all join in. May the Divine, who is Father in heaven of the Christians, Holy One of the Jewish faith, Allah of the Muslims, Buddha of the Buddhists, Tao of the Taoists, Great Spirit of the Native Americans, Ahura Mazda of the Zoroastrians, and Brahman of the Hindus, lead us from the unreal to the real, from darkness to light, from death to immortality. May the all-loving being manifest himself unto us and grant us abiding understanding and all-consuming divine love. Peace, peace, peace be unto all. So, Arati in here.
Breaker of all our worldly bondage and adored by all, we adore you. stainless slaughter, filming human form, transcendent yet filled with love. You free us from the stain of sin and ornament our world. Consciousness is your form. Your eyes always purified by knowledge. Your eyes always purified by knowledge. Looking at them, illusion is gone. Ocean of shining love and feeling, ever inebriated in your infinite love. Your feet always dear to your devotees. Your feet always dear to your devotees, form a book to cross this world. Reveal to us as God incarnate and the Lord of all things, helping us join with you. Your mind's always set in the divine light. Your mind's always set in the divine light. This we can see through your grace. Your of worldly sorrow and compassion full, infinite is your word. Your life offered for the world's deliverance. Your life offered for the world's deliverance, saving us from darkness and fear. Renouncer of all lust and lucre, therefore you were always spurning sensual life. Lord of monks, you are the best of men. Of monks, you are the best of men. Grant to us pure love for you. You're fearless and you're free from doubting, with your mind very firmly resolved. Causeless refuge of your devotees, causeless refuge of your devotees, renouncing caste and birth. Our treasure is your holy feet, which take us very soon across this puddle of life. You give love and even-sightedness. You give even-sightedness, to remove our anguishes. Our treasure is your holy feet, which take us very soon across this paddle of life. You give love and even-sightedness. You give love and even-sightedness, to remove our anguish here. Greetings to you, O Lord, beyond both speech and mind. Greetings to you, O Lord, beyond both speech and mind. Yet you are the basis of both. O Lord, yet you are the basis of both. Great light of all lights, blessing in the heart's gate. Great light of all lights, blessing in the heart's gate. Darkness is destroyed by your light. O Lord, darkness is destroyed by your light. Greetings to you, O Lord, beyond both speech and mind. Greetings to you, O Lord, beyond both speech and mind. Yet you are the basis of both. O Lord, yet you are the basis of both. Great light of all lights, blazing in the heartscape. Great light of all lights, blazing in the heartscape. Darkness is destroyed by your light. O Lord, darkness is destroyed by your light. Langa ranga bhanga, these are all the sounds of mridanga. Langa ranga bhanga, these are all the sounds of mridanga. Spiritual songs devotees are singing for your worship divine. Spiritual songs devotees are singing for your worship divine. Joy, joy for your worship divine. Hare, hare for your worship divine. Shiva, Shiva for your worship divine. Breaker of all our worldly bondage, and adored by all, we adore you too. Jai Shri Guru Maharaj Ji Ki Jai. Auspicious and blessed, graciousness sublime, all noble and sincere give to us, granting us refuge, all seeing glory. O Mother Divine, our love to you. Creation, preservation, dissolution, are your powers, eternal one, nature's real basis, nature's essence. O Mother Divine, our love to you. We come seeking refuge from anguish. Be our Savior through your deep concern. All our suffering remove, Goddess. O Mother Divine, our love to you. Victory, O Mother Divine, our love to you. Blessed Mother Divine, our love to you. Blessed Mother Divine, our love to you. Blessed Mother Divine, our love to you. Jai Shri Ram Krishna Dev Ki Jai. Jai Shri Sraddha Devi Ki Jai. Jai Shri Swami Vivekananda Ki Jai. Jai Shri Buddhadev Ki Jai. Jai Shri Jesus Christ Ki Jai.